Our next speaker is Doug Calder, and he's with Biovest International. Biovest is a subsidiary of Accentia Biopharmaceuticals, which is headquartered in Tampa. Doug is the Vice President of Strategic Planning and Capital Markets. So, Doug?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm representing two companies this morning, Florida-based companies, Accentia Biopharmaceuticals and Biovest International. The companies are related. Accentia is the parent. Biovest is the majority-owned subsidiary. Both companies are publicly traded. Both companies share core competencies in immunotherapy. Accentia is focused in the area of autoimmune disease. Biovest is developing personalized cancer vaccines. In fact, we hope that our first vaccine, Biovaxid, will be the second personalized cancer vaccine to ever get approval, second behind Dendrion's Provenge vaccine, targeting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. And in fact, my colleague here, Dr. Carlos Santos, will be presenting this morning at 10 o'clock in the personalized medicine session. So we hope that we'll see all of you over there. Scott, a few minutes ago, talked about Florida's environment just 5-10 years ago and how it's dramatically transformed. This is going to date me, but I remember the Florida biotech environment 20 years ago. And when you talked about life sciences in Florida 20 years ago, you can imagine the looks that I would get. You would get some very skewed, confused, curious looks. And it was thought it would be incongruous for cutting-edge life sciences to be originating and being developed in a state that was largely thought of as a tourist destination. But that's changed, and it's changed dramatically. When we tell people that we're headquartered in Tampa, Florida, they get it. And they get it for all of the reasons that the governor has mentioned, that Gray has mentioned, for the reasons in these books, the world-class hospitals, research organizations, universities, private and public companies. And what does that mean in the real-world sense to companies like Accentia and Biovest? It means a myriad of things, really. Research collaborations, combining our products with others to make them better. Finding diagnostics so that we can make sure that the right patient is getting the right medicine at the right time. Clinical trial sites. Our Biovaxid cancer vaccine successfully completed a phase 3 study. And a large part of that was the Moffitt Cancer Center, where we conducted a large part of that study. And we'll be conducting more studies in autoimmune disease and in cancers, and Florida will be a very big part of that. In-licensing candidates, growing our portfolio as we grow as a company and business. Talent pool. We're constantly scouring the landscape for the very best PhDs to build our science and medical team. We're finding them right here in Florida. There are two organizations I want to mention that are committed to growing the life sciences in Florida that have just been invaluable resources to us. Enterprise Florida is one. First of all, thank you, Kim, for doing such a brilliant job with this breakfast. One very small example. But every month, Enterprise Florida is providing me with trade leads. The government talked about trade missions. Thank you to the governor for leading trade missions, both taking us abroad and bringing companies to us. The other organization I want to mention is BioFlorida. Russell Allen is here, president of BioFlorida, and if you haven't talked to him, you should, because there is just a wealth of programs and services that BioFlorida will make available to you. What they do from a networking standpoint is just brilliant, but there are even economic advantages. If you're a BioFlorida member, there's a whole suite of services that are made available to you on a discounted basis, and we're taking advantage of those, and you should be as well. As a publicly traded company, access to the capital markets is extremely important to us. Wall Street's Wall Street, we all know that. But there are investment bankers that are based here in Florida that specialize in the life sciences. And they're actively funding companies. There are companies like Dawson James Securities, Noble Financial, LifeTech Capital is a fairly new company. I think it's been around a year or so, but they've got an all-star analyst with Steve Dunn. Morgan Joseph, they're right here. They're headquartered here in Florida. The venture markets are improving. You've got active participation from groups like Hamilton Lane, Hyde Park Capital, Ballast Point, I could go on and on. In fact, in our last round of financing, one of the major investors came from Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra. So the capital markets are just extraordinarily important, and they're here and they're accessible. Also, as publicly traded companies, there are a host of services that are critical to our sustainability and our growth related to just managing and running the business, and that would be IP counsel, for example. We've worked with some patent attorneys, blue chip names in New York City, but the very best firm we found of all is right here, well, right in Florida, I should say, but right in Gainesville, Florida, Salenchek and Lloyd. We've thrown some challenges at them, and they've delivered. SEC Counsel, our SEC Counsel is right in Tampa, Florida. Business Wire, our press release provider. Our press release provider is a national company. It's a Warren Buffett company, Business Wire, but their editorial hub is right in Fort Lauderdale. Our independent auditors, our accountants, Cherry Beckert and Holland, again, right in Tampa, Florida for us. So all of the very best of the best in terms of the expert services that we rely on, they're right here. They're right in our state. So, and I didn't even touch on a lot of other things, contract manufacturing and biobanking and contract research organizations. They're all right here in Florida. And it's only getting better. And we're very, very proud to work and live in Florida. We just don't think there's a better place. And again, I hope we'll see all of you over at our personalized medicine session at 10 o'clock this morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Doug.